Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to another video on the channel. It's me, Mirko, as usual, boys and girls. Welcome to the power rankings video. So how it's going to work, I'm just going to get straight to the point, is we are going to be ranking the team's power, just like the name, power rankings. But it's not just based on the standings, because the easy way would just be saying, yeah, it's literally just based on standings. But based on the potential that I see from the team, based on obviously their week one performance as well, and I will be explaining how they can, get even better, or if it's, I'll be explaining the flaws of the team and everything, basically, right? So we're gonna be talking about all that. Easy, okay? There you go. Easy explanation for you guys. So it's not entirely just like in the standings. So if you guys are going to be complaining, saying, Mirko, but this team is number one, that team is number two, it's different, all right? We're not just taking a look at the standings, we're taking a look at everything, even the way they play. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer that I will repeat later as well. MPL ID 1, you can expect this to be 100%. Like, I've watched literally every MPL ID game because I've casted literally every MPL ID game except for two matches, right? But even then, I watched those matches, rewatched it. But MPL PH, I haven't watched every single match. I've seen clips, I've seen some full matches, not all full matches. So it will be less credible for the MPL PH power rankings. It's more of a fun thing that I'm doing for MPL PH, not a full breakdown of the teams. Okay, so we're gonna start here with MPL Indonesia. Okay, let's start with MPL Indonesia first. So I'll just put the MPL ID logo right there so you guys know that we're talking about MPL ID. Actually, let me just put that down a bit so you guys see. There you go. All right, let's start with all right, you know what, since we're going with alphabetical order, we'll start with Alter Ego, because this is the first team in my document, in my files, right? I think what's really lacking from Alter Ego right now is a bit of everything, right? I think the drafts have been okay. I wouldn't say the drafts have been really good. I wouldn't say the drafts have been really bad. I think there are some moments where it's a bit it's sometimes very iffy for me. It feels like just when it comes to the fundamentals of of drafting Alter Ego, sometimes they get it really well. Sometimes they don't care at all about mid control. And I think their gameplay is all over the place currently. The reason for that is because of, a big change, I would say, in their rosters, right? Because Boy isn't playing, Nino isn't playing, Leo Murphy stepped out, it's Rassi in the Rome. We have Rizal, a new gold laner who I've heard has been performing better than Nino in scrims, and that's why he is in the main lineup instead of Nino. Then obviously we have Kids in the jungle replacing Boy, and we already mentioned Rassi replacing Leo Murphy, right? So I think I've said this as well in the roster update video, that I personally think this Alter Ego lineup is a bit of a downgrade from what we got from Alter Ego last season. I think with Leo Murphy, with Boy, Nino, that lineup, it was a really strong lineup already. It's so unfortunate that they did not perform in the playoffs, but I still think that lineup was one of the strongest Alter Ego lineups that we've seen. I think this lineup right here is a significant downgrade. Not to say that it won't get better for Alter Ego, because I believe this is a very young lineup. It is a lineup full of potential with Kids and Rizal mainly. These two carries, right? The jungler and the gold laner. They're going to have a significant role in Alter Ego's win condition. Because if Alter Ego really wants to get back in this season, then it's all going to come down to Kids and Rizal. If these two improve at a crazy rate, they're going to be able to carry the team. They're literally the two players that have been performing probably, I wouldn't say the best, but they've been the two most consistent members with Udil, right? I think Pai's performance has been really off, considering Pai used to be just one of the best XP laners in Indonesia. I don't know what's going on, but he is hitting that slope, and his performance has been dipping a bit. He hasn't been that dominant force that we've all come to know. I think for Rassi as well, hasn't found the proper footing in MPL despite his prior experience playing in MPL. But I think based on all this, Alter Ego, I'm going to have to put them at 7th place. This is a position that I have never seen Alter Ego in before. Because I've only started casting Alter Ego games or Alter Ego matches in Season 7, right? Because that's my first time casting. And Alter Ego have always been the dominant team, have always been a strong team. It's crazy to see them right here. But this, looking at their performances, I haven't been convinced at all. But there is a team worse than them, I think, as of right now, because we'll get into that later. Actually, we'll get into that now. Actually, fun. Wow. Yeah, alphabetical order. I forgot. Aura Fire. Now, if Alter Ego has potential, I think Aura Fire has hit their potential. I think they've hit their ceiling in Season 9 and Season 10. That was peak Aura Fire. With this lineup, obviously, if they, maybe change the lineups in the future or get some new, young talent from the MDL to shine, then maybe Aura Fire can come back. But I really think this lineup has hit its limit, man. I think the only thing lacking for Aura Fire in their performance in Season 10 was they really lacked a coaching presence, right? Mainly, sure, they had Tezit as their coach, but I'm going to be honest here. I feel like from what I've heard and from what I've seen, Facehugger makes most of the calls when it comes to the drafts, when it comes to even their playstyle, right? So with that, Facehugger is the main shot caller in Game 2. He is the IGL. He is also a very core member in this team. So he just has a lot of tasks, maybe a bit too much work placed on him or like responsibility placed on him that he's not able to go all out, which is very sad because when we do see Facehugger go all out, when we do see Facehugger, take the spotlight, it's always been absolutely amazing. I think Season 7 was personally my standout when it comes to individual performances from Facehugger. Season 7 was not a good year or a good season for Aura Fire at all, 0-14, but Facehugger, when he stepped in from the MDL, he was an analyst in the MDL. He stepped into the Aura Fire roster as a mid laner, and at the time, I think he just really focused on his mechanics, on how he was playing, because he was popping off despite them losing games. He was always popping off, right? And I really want to see that Facehugger come to light again. I think High has been kind of off, but again, I think mainly for me, the main criticism isn't just the players, right? I think the players, they haven't been performing to the level that we expect them to, considering they're Aura Fire, third place MPL Indonesia Season 10. I think their performance can be, you can take a look at their performance and say it's bad, but you can kind of blame it on the drafts. It's a very hard, every single time it's so painful to see Aura Fire drafts right now, which is crazy because I feel like in Season 9, Season 10, and even Season 8, the reason they were so good was because of their unpredictable drafts that worked, right? It wasn't just unpredictable for the sake of unpredictability. It was unpredictable, but it was also good. It was a good level of unpredictability. It was cheesy, but it fit in the meta. Now, what they're doing now just really feels like they're trying to subvert our expectations, and that's it. There's no reason for the picks aside from just, hey, look, it's a surprise pick from Aura Fire. Once again, I can play these heroes. That's it, right? It's just a shock factor. It doesn't work. I think I have been very surprised this season with Aura Fire picks, but it hasn't been the same level of like. I've been surprised because I'm just like, wow, what is this pick? Meanwhile, back in Season 8, I was surprised because, wow, this is such a good pick actually in this composition. I think they are lacking a lot of fundamentals in the draft too, and I'm not here to blame anyone, but it's an interesting choice. I said earlier that in Season 10, they were lacking a coach presence, so they went and, took Tezit off the roster, their old coach or / analyst, and they brought back Coach CL, the analyst or the coach for Aura Fire in Season 7 when they went 0-14. Yeah. They went back to the coach for 0-14 Aura Fire. Now again, not placing the blame onto anyone, but looking at their performance now, looking at their drafts, I don't know. I'm not seeing the same Aura Fire that I saw. I don't know if it's just an internal issue going on where the players are just not performing and not, playing or adjusting to the meta well, or if the drafts have just really dropped because of the coaching staff. I don't know. But for now, I think Aura Fire are definitely the worst team in the mix for MPL ID. I see no potential actually from this team aside from Kabuki and Fluffy. I think aside from obviously their side laners, I think performance wise, there is still potential. There is that season 10 and 9 potential of power. But for now, if we look at their drafts, if they don't fix this fast, they're going to end up going 0-14 again. I'm going to say it here. It's a tough pill to swallow if you're an Aura Fire fan, but they need to get things straight, man. They really got to fix the drafts and the way they're playing, because right now I'm not really convinced with their playstyle. It's so weird as well because Godiva is forced to play these weird heroes like the Cho and the Kufra. Yeah, he does play that. He did play those heroes back in season 10, but he only played those heroes when he was kind of forced to. Otherwise, he's always given his comfort heroes like the Ruby, even the Edith in the roam position. But yeah, it feels like they're trying to force they're trying to force him to be like Yaoi. I think you have Godiva. You need to understand his strengths and you need to utilize those strengths instead of forcing him to be someone he's not. You know? Yeah, that's personally just my opinion. But again, next on the list we have Bigatron Alpha. Now this is gonna be a toughie. This is really tough, right? Because I think Bigatron Alpha, out of every single team in MPL ID, has the most potential, right? Maybe you can say I'm biased here, but I think they have a lot of potential. This is a roster that has basically won most of their games if it wasn't for them throwing the game. I'm not even joking, right? Up against Onyx Esports. Okay, up against RQ game 1, Hanabi pick. I just feel like the Hanabi pick just did not work out because it was up against the Grok. It was up against the Farsa. I don't know about that, right? I think picking the Hanabi after seeing the Grok and Farsa was a bit greedy from Coach Aldo. But hey, they still went for it. Didn't work out for them. But I think in game number 2, they already answered, the dive presence from RRQ. They took it away from them. They took the Grok, they took the Farsa, and they picked the Hanabi. I think in game 2, the Hanabi really worked out, but the players just did not execute properly. Aside from that, I think the big highlight for me has to be their performance up against Onyx Esports, because they were winning so hard in both these games, despite being down in kills. They're always able to hold on to the gold lead early game and utilize that early game very well, even getting a 7,000, 8,000 gold lead against Onyx Esports. They even broke into the base. All they need is patience. And if they are able to fix that issue, this team can contend for the title. But if the team continues to progress as slowly as they did in week 1, I am not sure if this team can make it to the playoffs even, right? Alter Ego and Aura Fire, if they make their adjustments and Bigatron Alpha still stick with the little mistakes that they're making, then Bigatron Alpha may lose everything. But again, if they fix these issues, they are going to be a contender. They are looking so strong. I think they are looking like one of the strongest teams actually in MPL ID, except for the throws late game, right? It's just that, because even me as a Bigatron fan, I remember saying it to Coach Aldo right after the game. When you guys got the Lord against Aura Fire, my heart was beating because I had a feeling that that the players were going to throw. And that's not a good thing, right? It has happened so many times, and guess what? It happened again against Aura Fire. I can't believe it. It happened against RQ. It happens against Onyx twice, and then it still happened against Aura Fire. Granted, the Bigatron Alpha roster that played against Aura Fire was a different roster. It was the Bigatron Beta lineup with Just Gar, Virno Cure, and Gamora. Still, though, I don't think that's an excuse. I think that's a lesson that the order and every single player needs to learn. But yeah, again, I think in terms of macro, in terms of how they play the game, early game and even mid game, the way they're able to utilize the early mid is so good, and they are definitely one of the title contenders here. But for now, I'm going to be putting them at the fifth place because of those issues that we mentioned earlier, right? I mean, those are big issues, man. And I thought after the Onyx game, it's a very easy fix. Patience, just learn from it. But in the Aura Fire game, they didn't really learn from it. So Almost Aura were able to beat them, and I have Aura rated as the lowest team. I'm not gonna give them any a ranking higher than 5. I think 5 is already being very generous from me. 2 Bigatron Alpha. Yeah, I think the drafts have been stellar though. I think in every single game that they've lost, even except for game 1 against RQ, they have won in the drafts. So that's a good thing for Bigatron Alpha. They have a very solid coaching staff, and that's why I think with the young players progressing, they are going to be a very scary team in the later half of the season. But for now, 5th place. Let's move on to this is a big one. This is a big one. Ooh. Okay. I think for EVOS Legends, they had a pretty... Who did they go up against? They went up against Rebellion Zion. Then, who did they go up against? Alter Ego. Right. Honestly speaking, looking at EVOS Legends right now, I wouldn't say they're I would say they are impressive. They're still a very impressive team, but I saw a lot of mistakes actually from just how they are executing the games. I think against Rebellion Zion they kind of played that perfect. I think game 1 against Alter Ego was also very perfect. Game 2 was when I saw a bit of a hole in EVOS Legends, because I actually like Alter Ego's draft, and EVOS Legends were playing in a way where it's very skirmish heavy when it didn't need to. They were already winning despite losing in the drafts, in my opinion. And then they decided to throw in a lot of these turtle fights, overcommitting, and there's just a lot of amateurish mistakes. I would still say that it's okay for those mistakes to happen, because obviously they are very new players. They already have experience. They beat even Blacklist International in ISF, but I don't think those mistakes should be happening, especially up against a team like Alter Ego, who are who I consider is one of the weakest teams, right? Still, it was a very close game in game 2, despite EVOS Legends having a massive advantage. And I think due to their performance here, I think Rebellion game was just amazing. But due to their performance and due to the lack of data that I'm seeing from their opponents, I think their opponents have been pretty lackluster, Rebellion and Alter Ego. So I don't think this EVOS Legends roster has been tested that much. But I do see the brilliance of this roster. I think Brands is a very... Oh my god, the best gold laner in Indo, I think, right now. Number 1. I think it's Brands versus Skylar at this point. It was CW versus Skylar for some time, but now it's Brands versus Skylar. There's a new contender in town. And for now, I would actually say that Brands is number 1 in gold lane. This lineup, however, needs to still, mature. There's still a lot of mistakes that they're making, the rookie mistakes that they're making, and it's an easy fix. But again, just like Bigatron Alpha, these easy fixes are not as easy as you think, right? If the players are content with themselves, then I would say they're not going to be improving that much, right? So yeah, I would say EVOS Legends number 3. Taz also another highlight in my opinion, and Psychots. I think they have a really good team. Honestly, the roster is great. Their coaching staff is amazing too. I think the drafts have been really solid, except for the game 2 against Alter Ego. So we'll see EVOS Legends continue to progress. I think it's amazing. But for now, I'll put them at 3rd place because of the lack of competition. I think their opponents haven't really been too impressive. Next on the list, I'll say Geek Slate. Geek Slate have been absolutely amazing. I think this team will finally make it to the playoffs. I don't know if I want to say this, but I think, I will say it. I think it's almost confirmed that they will make it to... It's confirmed. I'll say it. It's confirmed that they'll make it to the playoffs this season. I think they will make it to the playoffs this season. They've shown incredible growth, not just in this season, but from season 10 to MPLI, getting all the way to the grand finals. Even then, in top clans, losing in the grand finals, but still making it all the way to the grand finals, having a very stellar, dominant run in a game in the top clans before losing in the grand finals, right? So Geek Slate, they have improved even more. I think the coaching staff, Coach Reno, I don't know who their analyst is, wink wink, but The coaching staff is amazing. I think it takes it takes a big load of responsibility and workload away from Beloyski's shoulders, and you can really see Beloyski start to pop off again. I love how Beloyski's playing. It feels like he's already loose. He's adapted to the Indonesian meta and to MPL Indonesia really well with Jana QT2. They have one of the best lineups as well, with a very good mix in that XP lane. They have Luke, who plays the sustainable heroes, the distraction heroes, the frontlining heroes, with Luke having a standout performance. And also, they have a different kind of XP laner, a very aggressive, damage dealing, carry XP laner in Matt. So, yeah, I mean, every other role in their composition, Jana, Beloy, Chidera, and even a boy. I think a boy stepping in this lineup, swapping with Elzura is such a good move. My God. I think the main reason that Geek Slate wasn't able to make it to the playoffs was maybe because of, I don't want to put the blame entirely on Elzura. He's a great player, but his hero pool was really, really exploitable in the drafts. And I think that's one of the reasons why they weren't really able to capitalize fully on the drafts in Season 10. Now, with a boy, holy, this guy can play every single hero. I think in 3 games that we saw, he was able to use 3 different heroes. So I'm really impressed with the boy. Even his performance in MPLI, I was really impressed. I think this team has a lot of potential. Chidera is still one of the best gold laners, I would say. I wouldn't say they are top 3 just yet, but I would say they have made significant improvements. And if they continue to grow at this pace, yeah, top 3 very, very soon. But I will put them at 4th place for now. I can't wait to see them perform. Every Geek State game, it's very entertaining. I think next on the list, we're gonna Onyx and RQ. We're gonna skip for a bit. We're gonna be talking about Rebellion first because that's the top 2. Let's make it interesting. Rebellion Zion, I think, again, is a team that I expected. I expected them to be down here. I expected Alter Ego and Rebellion to be 7th and 8th, and Aura Fire to be like somewhere in the mix before the season started, right? But Rebellion, despite them having one of the weirdest lineup changes, I saw it and I thought of it as a downgrade myself. No Dyron, right? And no Fearless. Even though there was the whole drama, I still feel like Fearless worked really well for the Rebellion system that they've already built, especially for Ouija Narco, who performs really well with a utility jungler or just the jungler that's stat flexible. I think Vincent is a good addition. It's not, he doesn't bring the same presence as Fearless, but he brings a different presence. When Fearless is just a very reliable jungler, Vincent is the carry. Actually, if you give him enough space, he will carry the game. We've seen it on the Fanny. We've seen it on other assassins even. And I think Cars in the XP lane is a very good addition. I thought Cars was going to be in the gold lane, and that's why I was really, really concerned with how they are going to play the XP lane, because losing Dyron is such a big blow. Dyron was one of, if not the number one when it comes to like highlight or standout. The standout performance in Season 10 was mostly Dyron and Ouija Narco. So without Dyron, I really doubted this roster, but Cars is another rookie that they somehow found. I think mechanically he is amazing. I think he can kind of replace Dyron. He has the same impact as Dyron, but you can really see he's a very young player. The youth in him is still screaming because there's so many moments where he just jumps in, goes in, where he doesn't need to. A lot of rookie mistakes from Cars, and you can forgive him because he's a very new player. He doesn't even have MDL experience. He stepped in right to the MPL instantly. I think there's a lot of growth, a lot of potential in this Rebellion Zion lineup. I think Highs has hit a new high in his performance as well. Ouija Narco a bit, I think, in his performance he has stagnated a bit, but the rest of this team has improved a lot. So I think they are going to be making it to playoffs if they continue this growth, if they continue this level of improvement. But I will put them at 6th. I don't think they are top 2. I think they are still very close to that red zone. And I think Alter Ego can actually take their position if they're not careful. Now we're going to the top 2. So we'll start with RRQ. Again, this is another team that I was really concerned about because R7 was a big factor as to why RQ were able to stay consistent so many times, make it to M4 even four times, right? Make it to M World Series 4 times, back to back to back to back to back. R7 played a huge part in that, being a solid XP laner, being a solid voice in the team as well, a solid leader for the team sometimes when they needed it. And the loss of R7 was weird because there was no one to take that role. Banana can take that role. I expected Banana to be stepping into the XP lane. Didn't really like his performance. Don't think he's MPL level just yet. So that's why I was concerned. Then they actually swapped Lemon in the XP lane, which I thought at first wouldn't really be too good. But looking at his track record, he likes just going in. He likes going for the instinctual plays, and I think that kind of play style fits best in the XP lane. And we've seen that RRQ are looking unstoppable right now, right? I feel like RRQ have just looked unstoppable. They've been looking so darn good. Unfortunately, I will have to say that their competition so far hasn't been too good. I think Bigatron Alpha, that game was amazing, and they really showed their class against Bigatron Alpha. They really showed it, even though Bigatron Alpha were able to kind of beat them in the draft in game number 2. I think RQ have made significant improvements in the drafting phase as well, with the Fiel and Arcadia at the helm. So I think there's actually been improvement, and I think RQ are a bit stronger than they were last season, because with the departure of R7, sure, you are lacking the voice. You are going to lack a bit of, I don't know what to say, but maybe XP lane experience, right? But I will have to say this: maybe him being in the team was a bit of a okay. So they have 2 shot callers technically. It's from what I've heard, right? It's Vin and R7. There's 2 big vocal players on the team, and it's usually Vin and R7. Now, a lot of their ideas clash, and sometimes they're not able to make one right decision, right? So now with just one voice on the team, which is Vin, I think you can see that RQ have been performing really well, and they have been pretty consistent, and they have made proper calls, like clean calls. It didn't ever feel like they were making any miscommunications. Nothing nothing of the sort kind of happened so far in their matches. So I would say RQ are strong, but unfortunately I will still have to say they're number 2 here. I don't think they're number 1 just yet because of the opponents that they faced. I think Bigatron Alpha is a very good team that they went up against, but they went up against Alter Ego. They smashed Alter Ego. I wasn't really convinced of that performance. Sure, they dominated Alter Ego, but it's Alter Ego who are really struggling right now. But because of their Bigatron Alpha performance, I will put them above Evo's Legends, because Evo's Legends beat Rebellion and Alter Ego. Meanwhile, RQ beat Bigatron and Alter Ego. I think in terms of competition, they've had the harder road in week 1, and they've proven more with harder competition. Then, obviously, I will put Onyx Esports as number 1 still in week 1. They are not number 1, actually. I think RQ is number 1 in the standings, because Onyx won 2-1 against Bigatron, or against Geek Slate, they won 2-1. They won 2-0 against Bigatron. So they're not sitting at 100% game rate. But I will still say Onyx Esports have looked the most impressive, right? They were able to weather the storm against Bigatron Alpha in the early game, and when you are able to win from behind, in my opinion, it's much more impressive than winning from just being ahead in the early game, because it takes a different level of mentality. It takes a different level of skills to actually pull off a comeback victory, not just dominate from the early game. And they also showed that they can dominate in the early game up against Geek Slate. Sure, they lost game number 1, but they were able to make adjustments super fast, super quick in the draft. And even in the interview, we saw that Yeb understood how to really counter Geek Slate. They went for the bans towards Beloy. They really targeted Beloy, and Geek Slate kind of still has that weakness. Even though it's not as big as it was before, targeting Beloyski can still work. Onyx Esports, with their adjustment, with Coach Yeb at the helms, it's insane. But it's insane that they're still able to keep this level of consistency. But I will say Onyx Esports are still number 1 right now in MPL ID Season 11. So here it is, the full explanations for every single team. My bad for the cough. But yeah, here, take a look at it. Tell me if you agree If you disagree as of like where these teams are positioned, let me know in the comment section if you disagree, agree, or yeah, whatever. We're gonna be moving on to MPL PH though. Okay. So again, disclaimer: MPL PH did not watch every single game, every single match, just yet. So this is not gonna be as, it's not gonna be as detailed, and it's definitely not gonna be as credible, my bad, as my MPL ID power rankings. But I guess we're gonna go with alphabetical order again. You know what? No, we're gonna start with TNC because I think TNC are still the weakest team. I just don't see anything too promising. I think when I saw the roster as well, wasn't really surprised. Unfortunately, maybe it's because they just didn't really have, any. I don't know. When I saw the rosters, I didn't really recognize most of the players. So, except for Ben Things, who I think has had very good performances in season 8, I think, or season 9 of MPL ID, but in the end, TNC are still not in the level of all the other teams, I believe, and I'm gonna have to put them right here. Next on the list, I think we're gonna go with Next Play Evos, who I think actually has improved a lot because of their acquisition, I guess, of or their collaboration, acquisition, I don't know, collaboration with Minana, the number one, the best amateur team in MPL or in PH, I've heard, right? They went on a crazy win streak in amateur tournaments, and I think it really shows that this lineup can perform in the MPL. Next Play Evos, I think they made the right decision. It's a very hard decision to make, kicking all of your star players, starting fresh, but Next Play Evos are amazing. I really love, changing. I love the way PH does things sometimes with just changing their full veteran team and going for, rookies. And I think right now I will actually put Next Play Evos right here. I think they are a very strong team that can contend, and what's crazy is they're all rookies, so they can still improve so much. I think they will be able to improve a lot here. And I think because of that, I will have to put Next Play Evos right there. Then next, let's take Omega, right? Let's take Omega. Oh man, this is really tough, actually. This PH is really tough. Oh my god. I think I might have made a mistake putting Next Play Evos that high. Yeah, I think I made a mistake. Ooh, okay, whatever. We'll change it later. I think Omega. Unfortunately, I kind of said this when I saw the lineups too. Losing Chaknu and E2Max stepping into the coach position. Don't really like it. I don't think this lineup works the way it does before with this lineup, right? I think Kelra doesn't have enough space to play with, and I think the mid lane is really struggling here. Mid control is a very big issue for Omega right now from the clips that I've watched, from the games that I've watched. And without that presence, Omega really falls because they need to get Kelra to a point where he can actually carry the game. And I think Omega just are really struggling to find that Omega timer, which they've been able to find a whole lot. And they were able to they were constantly able to push it to the late game. In I think the last 3 seasons of MPL PH, now they're really struggling with the changes. I think still though, despite that, this is a very young roster when it comes to the mid lane. Their mid laner and their roamer, still very young players, so they can grow. But again, they're growing at a very slow pace. I think the roamer, right, has been playing in MPL for quite some time, even though he has been swapping with Chaknu for Season 10. I think he has the experience already. I think the growth needs to come a bit faster for Omega. If not, I think they might not be making it to playoffs. I think Next Play Evos are going to have a better time here to make it to the playoffs, or a better chance to make it to the playoffs with the way Omega are playing. But I'm sorry, Next Play, I'm going to have to put you down here for now. We're going to move on to PH in. This is another MPL PH. Why are you so... Okay, you know what? Let's move. Let's just do this because I think everyone knows why this team is still number 1. Oh man, Echo. I'm telling you, man. I honestly think I've been saying this for quite a while, but I think the reason they didn't win the CBO qualifiers was just because they were, they were rusty a bit. They took a break from MPL or from competitive play for some time right after M4 because they went on vacation, and I don't think they were in tip-top form during the C-Ball qualifiers. That's why Bren were able to overtake them. Yeah, I think Echo are still number one. I think Echo are still number one. I think Echo have proved that they are still top tier. You know what? You know what? Never mind. I'm putting next play back here. Okay, yes. I'm putting next play back here. And then we are going to move. Okay, let's go with Bren. Bren, young lineup, amazing. I will say they still deserve, their spot. I think winning the C-Ball qualifier is definitely not an easy job to do, and this lineup has shown crazy growth. I think MPLI was where I was really shocked and surprised with what Brent Esports were able to achieve. Even though they weren't able to beat Oni Esports, they made it close, and this lineup is just so good. Kyle TZ, give him these carry heroes, Super Mirko even, and a lot of laning. He's a great laner. I think he might just be one of the best gold laners. Just laning in general, he's amazing. He even solo killed Kelra in one of the games. So Brent Esports, I think, have a crazy good lineup with their gold lane and jungler both in form. I think the whole team is in form, but I think the standouts for me so far have been Super Mirko and Kyle TZ. If they continue to grow and if they continue to have this performance, they might even be able to overtake Echo. But Echo are just on a level of their own for now, right? It's very tough to stay at number one for a long period of time. And I think a lot of teams are already, trying their best to read Echo. So yeah, for now, Echo is number one. Let's move RSG here. I think RSG are strong, but I think losing Demon Kite is a big is big. I think losing Demon Kite is big. I think losing Aqua is big too. Exort is an amazing player. H2, I haven't really seen a lot of H2 because I saw him play in RSG PH yesterday, but I don't know the history of where H or how H2 performs, etc. I think my viewers have told me that he used to be the best Ling in MPL PH. I don't know if that's a joke or if it's true, because sometimes my viewers are a bit deceptive. But yeah, I think losing Aqua and Demon Kite is a big blow to them. I think those two really made this team work. Eman, Light, and Nats obviously still the three core members that I am looking at, that I see a whole lot of potential from. But in the mid lane and in the jungle, I still have to see more to put them higher. So far, I'm more impressed with the other teams here that I see on top as opposed to RSG. So we'll see. But RSG definitely still a team that can grow and can prove me wrong. Every single team, even TNC. I think, especially for MPL PH here, it's going to be much more volatile. Much more volatile. Next on the list, I think we're going to move with Oni PH first, or Oni PH and Blacklist. Now, what do you guys think? Do you guys think I'm going to be putting Blacklist International as number 6 or Oni PH? I think it's obvious, right? I don't think that's a question. I think Blacklist International right now are still finding their jam with their new players. Super Red has been improving pretty well, and I've seen glimpses of brilliance, not blinces of brilliance, glimpses of brilliance. There you go. From this lineup, I think Renegade is a good pick too, but I think Edward is still the better XP laner there. I think against Echo they understood that, and that's why they still stayed or stuck with Edward in the XP. But against Echo, you can really see that this team is still kind of playing with their identity. Nothing wrong with that, but it's getting a bit predictable now, and the top teams here are going to be able to exploit that. I'm not going to doubt Blacklist though and how they're going to adapt, because they have always proven here that they are able to adapt. That's why you can't really put them lower. Blacklist have shown throughout 2 years. Is it 2 years? Yeah, last 2 years that they are able to stay consistent as long as VYs are in the lineup. And I think Right now, VYs are still in the lineup. They're still going to make those crazy calls, especially for V. I trust that Venus is still the best shot caller in the game. It just, everybody needs to be a bit more they need to be a bit more trusting. Yeah. And they need to improve as well individually. Now, Onyx PH, I think last season we saw Onyx PH and I was really surprised with Onyx PH's performance. But this season, I think a lot of teams have really been able to decipher what made this Onyx PH, playstyle, the playstyle that they were able to push out special. They have become a bit more readable, but I think 5 and 6 here can be very replaceable, even with next play. And I think MPL PH is just so volatile, man. Super volatile. Oh my god. Again, disclaimer, this isn't fully credible because I haven't watched every single match, but based on what I've seen, I would say this is my personal power rankings post week 1 for MPL PH. Don't know if the standings look exactly the same. I actually haven't checked the standings. Let's check. Let's check if the standings are literally the same. MPL PH. Let me just search. Okay. So it's Echo, NXPE, RSG, Blacklist, Bren, Onyx, Omega, and then TNC. So Omega, TNC are, down there. Onyx as well. So I got the top 3 or bottom 3 right. And then the top, it's very different. Bren lost. Wait, who did Bren lose against? Bren lost to NXP. Jeez. Wow. Okay, wow. Wait, that's a... Wow, NXP and Bren. Huh. You know what? Just because of that, I'm sorry. Just because of that, I did not watch that. I did not watch that. You see, that's why I'm telling you it's not as credible as my MPL ID one. I think, you know what? Blacklists are going to be here. And Bren, even though they lost, I will still say that they are a strong team that can make adjustments. And we have seen them make adjustments before, and they will be able to. But Blacklists are just a bit more solid, in my opinion, right now. Bren, wow. Interesting. So I am going to go for that, and that's my power rankings, ladies and gentlemen, for MPL PH Season 11. Hope you enjoyed it. Tell me if you agree or disagree with my power rankings. Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much. Like the video. Comment down below. Even dislike if you don't like. Yeah. Thank you for watching, guys. Peace out.